Today we celebrate Saint Lydia, the patron saint of the color purple and of textiles, and also the patron saint of our Plan Giving Society. And in the Episcopal tradition, we celebrate a lot of people as saints, both those who did things that were absolutely incredible. They were brought up bodily into heaven and things we could never imagine. But also, we celebrate as saints people who did the best they could with what they had where they were. And that is the spirit in which we celebrate Saint Lydia. And several years ago, when we were starting our Plan Giving Society, we had a naming contest for what would be the name of our Plan Giving Society. And Saint Lydia won, because she used what she had to found the church in Europe and is credited with being the first convert in Europe and helping to found the church with her resources. And it is in this spirit that we approach planned giving here at St. Luke's. Some people have incredible trusts left when they pass away, but for the rest of us, if there's anything left over when our time here on earth is over, if any of you choose to leave anything remaining to St. Luke's, if there is anything left over, we are so grateful for it. And there is information on the welcome table in the back on how you might do that. For all of you who have included St. Luke's in any way in your long-term plans, thank you for joining me in this act of hope that St. Luke's will be around for many years to come. And I wanted in today's sermon, to tell two stories about people and how they used their lives and their legacy as ministry. The first is the story of a gift that St. Luke's will be putting to use this year. And the second is an imaginative interpretation based on the scant research we have of who Saint Lydia was. And I promise it is short because no one has ever uttered the words, "Please give me more interpretive first-person monologue," except maybe Greta Gerwig. But, so here are two stories. The first is Ed. Ed Sweeney was a successful corporate executive, and when he died, there was some money left to each of his children to do something in his memory and honor. And his son, Stephen, knew how much Ed had loved doing peer ministry in his life. That is, training in a specific program to walk alongside people in his church who were in the midst of crisis for a period of time, and to pray with them and to be with them in that time. Ed's widow is a congregant here at St. Luke's and mentioned that her son, Stephen, would like to do something related to peer ministry and pastoral care in Ed's honor. And if the opportunity ever arose here at St. Luke's, there might be some money to do that. In conversations with many of you, the leadership here at St. Luke's realized that pastoral care in this place needed two things to be successful. First, a trained, dedicated program like the one that Ed had participated in to come alongside people during a difficult period of time. And the second was a dedicated person to help coordinate all of our threads of pastoral care, flowers and meals and peer ministry and lay Eucharistic ministry and prayer, everything to come together. So I approached Ed's family and explained what our situation was and asked if these two things might be a worthy use of Ed's memorial. And the funds arrived this week. In the coming months, I just love this congregation. In the coming months, you can look forward to a new ministry at St. Luke's of peer ministry, and Garth Howe will be serving as our pastoral care coordinator as a pilot in 2025. The second story is that of Lydia. I was never a front and center person. I liked to watch. I knew of my husband years before he became my husband. We were both from Thyatira in the Lydian region of Asia Minor, famous for its purple dye. The dye family was very strict, that only one licensed seller could exist in each region. So my husband had to set up shop all the way in Philippi, some 300 miles away. He'd come back once a year to stock up and renew his license. By the time we got together, he had outlived other wives, and I was my parents' only living child. "Come with me to Philippi," he said, and I thought, why not? I liked my life in Thyatira fine, but Philippi would be an adventure. We wouldn't be able to have children, and in truth, I didn't want them. But I made myself useful in other ways, keeping the books, keeping our home. And when he passed, I just quietly kept the dye license. Each year I came up with a different reason that my husband couldn't make the trip back to Thyatira to collect the dye. I'm sure the family knew I was lying, but I paid my tax on time and in full, and they didn't ask any questions. After he died, my life became quieter. I would go to hear whoever seemed interesting at the river or in the forum, any musician or actor or orator. It was good to hear what was going on in the world, and I am, if I do say so myself, a most appreciative audience member. Every performer needs an audience, and I was one of them. One day, 3 men, Paul and Silas and Timothy, came through speaking about the one God and spoke about encountering the Holy One in magnificent terms. Paul talked about being thrown off his horse, and hearing him made me want that. The intensity of meaning and realness that lies just beyond that you can't touch, but sometimes knocks you to the ground. That sort of thing hadn't happened since I was a child, and I longed for the excitement. But I also wanted more of what Paul described as standing before God just as myself. That because of Jesus, there was neither Jew nor Greek, male nor female, that I was just me, and I was complete before God as I was. After they spoke, I stayed around listening, and as the crowd thinned, I asked Silas if they needed anything while they were in town. And he said, in what I'm sure he thought was a joke, we could use a place to sleep tonight. And just as when my husband asked me to come to Philippi, I thought, why not? So I looked Silas in the eye and I said, all right, if you baptize my servants and me first, you may stay the night. They stayed several nights after that first one, and it was a joy to have them there, though I was ready by the time they went on to Thessaloniki. But while they were there, they were all the entertainment we needed. They made dinner a ritual of giving thanks and telling stories. Sometimes I would ask the dye seller in Thessaloniki if he'd heard of what became of Paul and Silas and Timothy. He said they had quite a little following there. And I thought about how in my household at dinner we still said thanks and told stories even years later. And so I told my colleague, tell them that the little purple church in Philippi says hello. They'll know what that means. Friends, we never know what our legacy may be. But in the spirit of Ed and of Lydia, let us go forth boldly, hopefully, with faith in Jesus Christ, with what we have, where we are, and wherever we find ourselves. Amen.